In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the thermostat housing on this BMW 328i. Let's get into it. Using a 8mm socket, we want to take these screws out. Take this panel down. Some screws on the side. And drop the panel and slide it down. After you take the shield off, you want to take a straight blade screwdriver and have a drain bucket underneath. You want to make sure the vehicle's cold while you're doing this. Do not do this while the vehicle's hot. I'll just drain the coolant. I'll take the reservoir cap off. It's going to allow the coolant to drain out. Take the drain plug, get that lined up. And just snug that up. That's good. Take this hose off. I'm just going to use a pick to release the clip. Make sure you have a drain bucket underneath just in case some fluid comes out. Just wiggle this back and forth. Yep, a little bit of coolant. Using the pick, we'll just pop this clip out for this hose. Just take it off completely and rock that hose back and forth. Slide that off, out of the way. I'm using a smaller pick. I'm going to disconnect the connector on the bottom. There's a little tab there. Just push up on the tab and disconnect the connector. There's the connector. Set that aside. Using the pick, we'll just pop this clip out for this hose. Just take it off completely and rock that hose back and forth. Slide that off, out of the way. I'm using a smaller pick. I'm going to disconnect the connector on the bottom. There's a little tab there. Push up on the tab and disconnect the connector. There we go. There's the connector. Set that aside. There's a hose that goes in the back. Use a straight blade screwdriver. Loosen up that worm clamp. Slide that back. I'm just going to use a pick. Just get under the hose. Try to work that off in the back. You can kind of get in there from beside the side of the cradle. Just pull that off. On the side is a hose that goes to the back of the thermostat. You want to remove that. Just loosen up the worm clamp. You can use a 1/4-inch socket on the worm clamp or a straight blade screwdriver. Take this panel off. Use a 16mm socket. Take the bolts out. Down. Just reach in, grab the hose, and pull it back. Oh, more coolant. Underneath here, there's 2 bolts. We're going to take those out with a wrench. Just use a 10mm wrench. Loosen those up. If you can fit a socket in there, you could do that. Once you crack them free, then you can do it by hand. I'll take that bolt out. And I'll get the other bolt, loosen that up with the wrench. Slide the bolt out. Grab the thermostat, and it slides right out. And take the thermostat housing, slide this hose on. Alright. I'm not going to tighten that yet. I'm going to get the hose lined up with the water pump hose. Connect the connector. And get the hose lined up down below. Slide that on. And take the thermostat housing. Slide this hose on. Alright. I'm not going to tighten that yet. I'm going to get the hose lined up with the water pump hose. Connect the connector. And get the hose lined up down below. Slide that on. Now I'm going to tighten down the worm clamps on the back. Alright, that's tight. Just make sure the hose doesn't move. That looks good. I'll get the bottom one lined up. And we'll tighten that down. And snug that up. That looks good. To get the bolts in for the thermostat, to make it easier, taking the bolts out, then you can move the sway bar. Just put a piece of wood or a hockey puck or something like that, and then it's a little bit easier getting these in and out. Get the bolts started. And we'll get the other bolt started. And just snug those both down. That's good. Put the bolts in for the stabilizer bar. Tighten those down. Now take this hose, the clip's already on there. Lock that in place. Slide this hose. It's going to go right there. And just lock that in place. There we go. That's locked in. Take this shield, slide that in place. Get the bolts started. and snug those down. I'll slide this panel in place. Get the bolt started. I'll tighten those down. You take a straight blade screwdriver. I'm going to loosen up the bleeder screw here for the coolant. Using a funnel, you can add the appropriate coolant. Make sure it's the correct mixture, 50-50 water to coolant. You can tell when it's full. There is a gauge right here that comes up. So you want to make sure, check on the side of the tank to the key to make sure it's at the appropriate mark. And you can close the bleeder screw. Make sure that gauge is in the appropriate spot. This vehicle, it's broken, so it's broken off down there, but this looks fine here. Put the cap on. And then we're going to start the bleed procedure inside the car. And we're going to put the key in the on position, but don't start the vehicle. And you'll want the HVAC on the lowest setting as far as the blower goes, and turn the heat all the way up. And then we're going to hold the gas pedal all the way to the floor for 10 seconds. All right. The water pump is electric, so the computer is going to command the electric water pump to cycle through and pump out all the air so that bleeds out the system. You can hear the water pump doing its thing. It's cycling, pushing the air through, and it's going to do this for about 10 minutes. After that, you can just shut the vehicle off and you should be good to go. It's also a good idea to have a battery charger connected to the battery just so that the battery doesn't drain.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.